Hi and welcome to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast for athletes, coaches and professionals who want to achieve their goals faster. I'm David Charlton and I'll be sharing proven methods from leading athletes, coaches and experts that will help you get the most from your talent. Today's show is sponsored by Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosforth near Newcastle upon Tyne and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support and excellent rehabilitation services. In this episode, I'm really fortunate to be speaking to a really highly esteemed guest. In the episode, we're going to be talking about commitment and the commitment that is required in order to perform at the real top end of sport. We'll look at what a high-performance athlete actually is and what a leisure athlete is. We're going to talk about different transitions that athletes come across and various different challenges and how that they can remain focused. Yes, today I'm joined by Mark Bennett MBE, who's got over 30 years experience developing robust athletes and teams. Right, hi Mark, it's great to see you again. Would you be able to tell the listeners a little bit about your background and what you're up to now?
Hello, David. Yes, so let's go for the short version. If some of you don't know, is I've spent the last 30 years developing a need-centered approach to help facilitate coaches of any sport and business and teachers to understand the technical, tactical knowledge they've got, how to impart it in a way so whoever they're communicating with, one, understands it, but can actually make effective decisions, effectively evaluate live without the need for the teacher and the coach, and to develop an environment of interdependency where actually peers and teams can understand and accept feedback from each other and interact live to what's in front of them, as opposed to wait for the coach to tell them what to do. So that's the short version. So I guess you could say the key elements to what I've been working on for the last 3 decades is to develop better influencers, but also to support a robust mechanism to support the change behaviour in the influences of the new information and the new behaviours.
And the types of clients that you've been working with over the last 20, 30 years, you mentioned there?
Yeah, over 30 sports, all the way from grassroots through to Major League Baseball, NBA, England Rugby, Premiership Rugby, Super League, age group, national teams, schools, primary, inner city communities in the States, and corporate within international corporate organisations globally within just management and business.
So it's fair to say that you're pretty well qualified to recognise the difference between a leisure athlete and a high-performance athlete.
Yes, because actually pretty much everywhere you go, they are there, even in pro teams, even at senior pro teams. Yeah, they are fundamentally your two types of athlete that you see from grassroots all the way through to pro sports.
Do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about what you see are the differences there?
Yeah, so I mean, this is all interpretation. So the listeners may have a different interpretation. So this is just mine. And it's one of the things whenever I start training, coaching or mentoring clients is we make sure we understand what this means. So for me, a leisure and a performance athlete has nothing to do with technical ability or physicality or skill. It has to do with the behaviours and the attitude to the everyday things. So if we looked at a simple version, and we could go into this much deeper, the simple version is a performance athlete is somebody that will do what they need to do to be the best they can be, supervised or unsupervised, 24/7. So that will be, they will understand, and you could be a novice and you could have a performance attitude of saying, what do I need to do, not what I want to do? And they'll understand it and they'll seek to understand it and they'll apply it to the best of their ability, whether it's cold, whether it's wet, whether it's dark, whether they don't like doing it, whether they're not good at it yet. And that could be, if you look at the world-class performance attitude of behaviour, we're looking at, okay, how much sleep do I need? I'm going to make sure my food is ready the next day. What are my macros and micros I need for the next day? I'm going to plan that first. I'm going to pack my bag first. How much sleep do I need? So I'm going to make sure that an hour before at least I get away from my phone to allow me to relax, and then I can get to bed so I know I can sleep. When my alarm goes off, I won't continue to press snooze. I'll get up, I'll do my mindfulness. I know what success is for me for the day. I'll have my hydration for drink. I'll do my mobility. I'll have my good breakfast. When I go into train, even if it's in the gym or conditioning or prehab and rehab, before I start, I'll know what success is. And I commit 100% to every process. And I'll live my day through those actions of making informed choices and committing to the intent and review the choice and the execution 24/7. A leisure athlete will be somebody go, I'll do the things I like doing. The stuff I need to do, I'm not going to really commit to unless someone is supervising me and telling me to. So a golfer, for example, may be the one that goes, well, I like getting on the range and smashing the big shots. I understand my short game is my weakness, but, unless the coach tells me, I'm really not going to do that. Oh, it's raining. I'm not going to get on the course. I'm just going to go in the warm driving range again because I like hitting the shots. So that's kind of the difference, in a short version. And again, everything outside that day to day, they won't really connect to the choices they need to be the best they can be. They'll kind of go, well, I can make excuses and quantify why I'm not making the choices I need to, and I'll just do the stuff I like doing. So that's the simple version, David.
So in effect, what we're saying here is the attention to detail of the high performance athlete and the preparation that they go into is extraordinarily big.
Yeah, and what's really important as a coach, my mantra within the whole of my business is performance is a behaviour, not an outcome. So what I've got to understand as a coach, teacher, manager is actually, am I really looking at the everyday behaviours of the athlete, or am I get caught up in their technical ability in the moment of what I see? Because we need to understand what are their everyday behaviours to understand where their mindset is and what their commitment is to their goal, not our goal. So when we can start to identify that, we can start to understand where we need to be the influencer or raise their awareness to, the alignment to where they want to get to, and their present behaviours, are they aligned to their present goal? Now, some people, as you know, you've experienced some, know, David, is they say they want to be the best golfer or whatever it may be. They want to win the cups, they want to get onto the tours, etc. But actually the behaviours aren't aligned to the goal. So, but no one's really had the conversation with them in deep to get them to understand what are the very behaviours they need to, what are the very behaviours they're doing now, where are the differences? Are you willing to make the changes, and do you need to support in that? Do you know what they look like? And if not, no problem, but let's just change your goal and put the choice back at them.
Yeah, that must be one of the difficulties when you're working in team sports, is for the coach to actually have all these really detailed conversations with their athletes when you've got a squad of 25, 30 people.
Yeah, and what you'll always have is, even at pro level, you'll have people with a range of behaviours, and I've so many coaches I've met over the years saying, this guy's got so much potential, or this, female has got so much potential, but they just don't commit. And one of the challenges is when you're, let's use the word talented, and we haven't got time to get into what that means, but if we were to just say they are better than the people around them, so their first choice pick, but their behaviours are not the same level as commitment as the people around them. So for them, actually, they're the hardest people for them internally to change, because they're thinking, well, I'm still getting picked. So why do I need to work harder? I'm still better than the people around me. The problem with them is they're measuring their performance in a comparison with the athletes around them, which actually is a false paradigm of measurement. So what we need to do, even if it's a team, is actually, one, have a conversation to get them to understand it. But also then we need to start scanning each athlete. And it doesn't take long, over weeks, months, to get to know them as a person and get to know, their commitment to the behaviours. And there's a lot of adherence strategies we can use with that. But it's you spending time to get to know the person, then spending time to get to know where are their behaviours, and also then what do they really want? Because actually it may be, look, I just like playing in this team. I don't want to progress. So actually, if their behaviours are aligned to that, then it will be hard to change them unless we start to change. Actually, I want to do more. I'm more engaged now. I'm enjoying it more. You're making it more challenging for me mentally. I want to change. But if they go, no, I definitely want to be somewhere else, I want to progress, but the behaviours aren't aligned to that, it's definitely worth having the honest conversation. How you have the conversation is part of the coaching craft, because by just telling them isn't going to facilitate change. You might build barriers, but you've got to raise their awareness to the connection with, actually, it's still their choice, but are their present behaviours aligned to their desired outcome? And that's the conversation that's critical.
And thinking about this, it's going to be very important for these athletes who are going to go on and succeed and attain higher levels to be able to reflect and to learn from mistakes, learn to adapt their daily behaviours?
Yeah, it's one of the challenges and frustrations I have within a lot of sports that I see from the outside and in business and even in schools is we expect people to make effective decisions under different variety of pressure, make great choices, being able to commit to them and then evaluate them without getting caught up in the outcome. But we don't teach it to them. So we kind of, if you said to anybody, I mean, you said to a golfer, a basketball player, a pole vaulter, anybody says, right, I want you to be better within your skill, but we're not going to practice that. I just expect you to do that straight away. Everyone would laugh at you. So no, we need to spend time. We need to be patient. We need to progress this. Well, if you want people to think in a certain way, effectively make great choices based on what they see, scan, being present, make good choices, commit to them with intent, without fear, review the choice, the execution separately. You need to train them and develop an environment where actually we practice that above anything else until you can start being more effective at that, because that's going to be key for their success now and in the future, even with kids. So for me, I developed an action review process that I recommend to every coach. Said, look, overtly share this with your players. Let them know the value of it. Make sure they make the connection. And that's your framework. So just say, I want you to think like this all the way through. I'll never get frustrated if you make a poor choice, but we won't review a choice if you don't commit to it. But if you do, we've got a framework. We can review the choice and the execution in a dialogue. So instead of having to ask players lots of questions, which sometimes you flog on a dead horse because they're just waiting for you to ask a question, we teach them the action review process. So they know, look, all I'm after is a review. You know what the review is now. So now we're listening. We've given them an answering framework as opposed to we having a question framework. We can listen. If there's a bit of grey, we can delve in, but it's allowing them to think in an effective way and not wait for the rubbernecking, as I call it, looking to coach. Is that okay? Learn answers. What does coach want me to say now, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, developing an action review process is not just important for sport, but just in life skills, making great decisions and reviewing them.
And that's a process they can repeat and repeat by themselves as well, away from the coach. 100%.
And
I would imagine as well it would be quite a useful tool for parents.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, a lot of the things we're talking about here, David, and all of the stuff in PDS, really, which is my system, is people skills. It's not contextual. It can be anywhere. So I always say to coaches, they get caught up in they want to develop the players and their growth mindset. But actually, the first thing I look at is, as you as a coach, are you living the very behaviours that are allowing you to be a great coach? If you need a change, are you committing to that change? Are you following an action review process? So once we can get them to understand that actually you can't just turn it on when you turn up for a practice session. You need to connect with it. It's a life skill. And the more you use it in everyday life, the more comfortable and more skillful you'll become at it. So it can't be a turn on and off thing. It's got to be a value of life thing as a person. And that's when it becomes impactful.
Going back to the whole parents thing then, so what advice would you actually give to parents in order to help their kids make the leap up from, when they're say transitioning from academies into professional sport?
I think it's going to be huge for any parent. I think it's the same with coaches, teachers, parents. Is if it's a coach, identify all the influences of parents being one. And if you're just looking at a parent, it's just to say, look, it doesn't matter what age they go to. You need to prepare them that the environment they go into may not be the most flourishing one. What I mean by that is they may have a coach now that is very athlete-centered, need-centered, get them to think for themselves, etc. They may then move to another coach and they're very dictatorial, old-school coach, just telling them what to do. So what we've got to say to them is, look, you're in charge of the choices you make. And actually, I'm really interested as a parent in supporting you based on the informed choices you make. So I need to understand if I'm going to have a conversation with my child, am I in the right state to start the conversation? Have we pre-agreed certain behaviors for myself as a parent and for my child that we'll agree that we'll abide by to help each other be great communicators and understand each other? So that's back to that Stephen Covey, first understand, then be understood. Then just share with them is if it's pre-agreed, we always review that. But also what I want to do is when we have a conversation, I'm really interested in your opinion first of your commitment to the choices. And it goes back to David, if someone, if their child has just played in a match, whatever sport it is, it's not about asking questions about did you win or how did you do or how many minutes did you play on the pitch. It's all about one, enjoyment, but secondly, it's all about okay, what was the most challenging thing that you experienced today? What did you learn today? And then using that action review process, if they go, well, I'm not sure, what I did. So, well, what were your options? Okay, so if they were your options, what did you go for? Did you commit to the choice you made? Awesome. Now, based on what you know, would you change anything? So all of a sudden now we're having a quality conversation that is more about listening than the wise, all-powering parents always needing to have the answers. Because as we know, David, and, the longer it takes, the harder it is to think back to a child. But remember, childs have great minds. They have great opinions, and often they're less blocked than we are. They were the people that were there. We weren't. They saw everything we didn't. And what we want to understand is, I want to know what you're thinking from your angle, from your viewpoint. So if I can start a dialogue that actually my child always knows I really value them, but I'm really inquisitive and I'm really interested about the choices they're made and their commitment to them, then actually the dialogue becomes more enriched and we don't get the child just doing the fast one-word answers to the parent trying to draw some information out of the child.
It's fascinating having this conversation about parents because I suppose when you look on the sidelines in football, rugby, whatever sport it is, you just see their emotion levels just go up so high and they just can't rationally think and question in this way.
Yeah, because, the big problem we have is across the board is what we don't ask ourselves is simple questions. And for me, one of the simple questions is, what is success? So you've got to ask yourself as a parent, what is success for you and what is success for your child? And recognize actually when you go to the sport, it's what's success for the child. And if we want the child to flourish and use sport, one, they enjoy it and keep in sport, but also use it as a life development skill, then what we've got to say is actually them being engaged, them being present, them helping their teammates be the best they can be, and them being the best they can be is success. Them making choices and committing to them is success. The scoreline is nothing to do with that. The ref decisions are nothing to do with that. It's everything to do with those elements. So if we as a parent go, well, that's success for the child, then we ask ourselves, how can I support my child to be the best they can be on that pitch? All of a sudden now I'm thinking differently to what I see. Now, if I'm going there and go, it's all about the winning, and you've got that confirmation bias anyway, anything my child does, it's great. Anybody else, it's terrible. Or the opposite of, well, actually, they're okay for kids, but what, kid, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that? Go over there, sprint over here. Actually, now we're part of the problem. We're not part of the solution. So if we can define what success is first, and then when you develop that good rapport with your child, or, same as any coach as with players, we need to ask them, if we go into a game, what do you want from me? And they might go, just be silent, Dad. Just be silent, Mum. That's it. That'll be great for me. Then you go, no problem. I've got you. Fist punch, whatever it is, bang, I've got you. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you be the best you can be. What does that look like for you? And that's kind of, I know it's a simplistic version. There's more to it than that, but that's what we need to get to, David.
Well, that's it. It's open communication, isn't it? It's so simple, so straightforward, but as a parent, if you know what your child wants from you before, during, after a game, then you're going to be a much better place to be able to help them so they can just go out and enjoy that sport and express themselves.
Yeah, and everything starts from the relationship that we have day in, day out with our children, the same as coaches, is we can't just turn it off and on when we turn up for game day. The rapport and the way our child can communicate with us honestly begins with every communication we have every day. So then if we have that level of dialogue and quality, where we're really listening and valuing their opinion, then we're more likely to get an honest answer when we ask them these pressure questions. And if we don't have that type of dialogue, even when we ask a child, right, what do you want from me when we come to the pitch? They may not answer honestly. They might, I don't know. They might kind of, I can't really speak to you. Whereas they'll go to their mates and go, I wish my dad didn't turn up for this. It's embarrassing, whatever it may be.
Yeah, most definitely. Where do you stand on sporting academies? So be it, professional football, rugby, cricket academies, because obviously they're bringing kids in at the ages of 8, 9 years old, and there's an awful lot of hours and discipline put in there, and the enjoyment side can be can quickly evaporate. Where do you sit?
Yeah. I think it's all about, you've got to look at them individually. I'll give you an example. Evo Soccer, Evo Rugby in Sheffield, they work all the way up to 5-6-year-olds up to pre-academy and mixed age group, mixed ability. But actually what they're doing is they're developing people. It's all about them being the best they can be. It's all about them helping their teammates be the best they can be. And every kid's engaged, everyone's valued, everyone's supported. The parents come in. If a new parent comes in, they're hooked up with another parent. New parents coming in, they take them to the side and say, please come with us. We're Jill and Jim. This is our kid here. This is what you might notice differently. If a new player comes, they link them up with another player and go, Jimmy, can you link up with Steve, new player? They introduce, come on, you with me for this session. This is what we're going to do. And it's about supporting and growing. So that's the type what we need to do is the parents need to understand the chance of your child making it is very remote. So if you're thinking academies at any age is a stepping stone to a professional contract, then you're thinking wrong. And it's the same as the academies and the scouts. We know, bio banding, all the other stuff about just looking at picking the best player because they're bigger, stronger than anyone else at the time means absolutely nothing in moving forward. And that's the wrong selection process. However, if the academy is all about, look, this is about engagement and improving people, to keep people in the sport, to help them be better players, but help them be better people first, then that type of academy, whatever you want to call it, is a place for growth. So in my experience, I've seen some great ones and I've seen some horrific ones that should be shut down. So I don't think it's the name as such, and I don't think it's the age group as that. I think it's more about the environment and the philosophy, not that it's told on a wall, but what is lived to day through the coaches, the parents and the kids that turn up.
Which again comes back to communication, doesn't it, really, where you're fundamentally building the culture, the values, the goals, and everybody coming together and reflecting, talking about what's being achieved and what needs to be achieved on a daily basis.
Yeah, and it's all about just making sure all the influencers are engaged at the beginning so they understand what success is here, what it may look differently. I'll give you a great example, David, years ago with golf, when I was doing those courses 10, 15 years ago with the county and the England golf. And as you know, one of the things I always say is, look, before you come in, what you need to do is you need to take the parents to the side and let them know, okay, so you may see me coaching differently than you used to, but this is why. Because I want your child to be able to manage their state, being able to make great decisions based on what they do, review them live without the need for me. So you won't be hearing me telling them the answers as much. I'm going to get your player to think, well, there won't be as much tactical because they're ready when they're ready. We want to develop the fundamentals. So all of a sudden they go, this is great. I can see the value of this for this child in school, tidying their room, brilliant. So then when the parent sees it, then they go, this is great. But if you don't have that conversation, the perception of what success is from the parent may be very different. So then if they go and watch your coaching session and all of a sudden you're not aligned to their perception of a coach, i.e., telling them the answers, being interactive, then they might turn around and go, what on earth am I bringing my child here for? You're not doing anything. Why don't you give them some information? So it's really important that it's not just about talking about culture. It's about looking at our day-to-day behaviors as a coach, as a manager, and saying, look, are we doing our day-to-day behaviors aligned to what we say is our culture? And are we making sure anyone of influence understands the value of our culture, what it looks like, and actually how they're part of it? They're not separate to it. Parents have to be part of the interaction of developing their children. They can't be somebody that they drop them off and they stand to the side and then we give them back to them at the end. That's not going to develop the culture, because the one central element to all of those influences is the child. So if they're contradictory, then actually we've got one person in the middle that's getting conflict. And what we need to do is alleviate the conflict. So that's, for me, I see too many times, Dave, and I go all the way around the world where I see these great words, and they're commonly the same words on walls. They're told to me in presentations, but I don't see them. I don't see them in the everyday behaviors. So your culture and environment isn't what's on the wall. Your culture and environment is what you see and hear and feel every single day. So align yourself to that, not to a set of words on a wall.
And I suppose with technology nowadays as well, you can really implement like really creative processes to continue that theme. It doesn't have to be just done there and then in a session.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's all about, we've got to make sure that if we're saying to coaches, look, this is who we are here. Do you want to join our club or our organization? Or if they're in it and you want them to change, one thing we've got to do is support their change because they're the influencers, but also get them to be accurately self-aware, one, of their state and how to regulate it, and then being aware of what they're saying and how they're saying it, aligned to who they want to be. And often we don't spend that amount of time. So one of the things I do with anyone I mentor is the first stage is they put a camera on their chest and they run some coaching sessions so they forget the camera's there. And I just ask them to watch it, not looking at tech, look at how you interact, what your client's saying, your player, your athlete, how you're interacting with them. Is it effective? It's the impact, who's making the decisions, etc. And just by doing that, you get the, oh my God moments. You go, oh my God, I talk too much. Is that sound of you? Once you get over, you hate the sound of your voice. You start to pick up and go, I'm not coaching in the way I think I'm coaching. And that's the start, because it's like anything. If we don't establish the baseline reality with the person that we want to be the link to the athlete, then actually they might be saying, yeah, I do all that. But actually they're not doing it because their self-awareness is poor. Their intention might be, but their application is not there, if that makes sense.
Massively. It is so powerful, the use of the video camera in that respect. And then I suppose they take it a step further and do a little bit of journaling, following a process around what's going on inside their minds and why they're making certain decisions and why they're saying certain things. That's just going to improve their performance tenfold going forward.
Yeah, and that's where the action review process I ask them to share with the players, I ask the coaches to use the same action review process. And then I ask them the hot and cold review. So hot review is, we normally set up WhatsApp groups or Slack or Microsoft Teams. So what we agree is after every match and so many practice sessions, some they say every practice session, the coach, as soon as they finish the session, either voice records or video records or types in, the voice one's always the best, and they just hot review. So straight after the session, they go, this is my review. I thought my state was here. My interaction was great. This is my success. I felt, etc. And then their cold review is, once they've had time to reflect, hopefully with watching the video back, if they've got that ideal, then they look at it and they do the same. So in the same WhatsApp group, so this is my cold review now. Actually, my hot review is accurate, or actually, no, I missed this. I need to be aware of this. So what we're doing now is we're helping them be more accurate referencing of what they think they do and what they're actually doing. And that becomes addictive in a good way, because then you've got some real referencing where you're really enthusiastically interested about, actually, how did I do? Not how did the player do? How did I do to help facilitate the player? Because, I'm part of that influence. And then we're starting to shift from just looking at videos of players. Now I'm looking at videos of how did I do?
That's it's fascinating. That is, I know we could talk for hours and hours about this quite easily. Can I just ask one question with regards to like yourself and your development? Who would you say is the most influential person on your career and why? Well, I haven't got one, and it may be an odd answer, David, but bear with me. So there was a guy called Sergeant Parfit. He was an Army Cadet Sergeant. He must have been 13, 14, or maybe 15 when I was 12, 13 in Army Cadets in Truro. And he was the first person that actually, when I was getting a lesson from him, and I never got on well in school, he really interacted and listened to me, as opposed to just gave me information. And I learned so much quicker than him, and I was engaged than anyone else. So that for me, even as a young kid, I was going, oh, there's something there he's doing. I didn't know what it was, but actually that's how I want to do it. And I started to, without knowing it, I kind of took on his traits. But then this is where it gets a bit crazy, David. So the other ones is Bruce Lee with his philosophy of life, not his martial arts, but his thinking and his work, really fascinating. And the funny one, and there's two left, the funny one is a Jedi from the old fantasy Star Wars films, in, the way they think and being present and, just committing to choices, that kind of way, which is very, I suppose, Buddha-esque philosophy. And then the last person is actually me. So one of the things I always do, and I still do it now, is I record myself as often as I can. I question and challenge myself what I'm doing. And then I look at the impact I have, not in the moment with somebody, but 2 months later, 3 months later, a year.
and I'm always challenging myself is what am I doing well that's working? What could I do better, aligned to having a positive impact on people? So I'm kind of my best reference. So I've influenced me to know when I wasn't doing things well enough, or knew why was that so good with that person, but it didn't work with this person. And then I take the best of me and try and figure out what that is, and the worst of me and figure out how to change it. And that's kind of been a natural thing for me. So I don't know if you ever got the answer of your greatest influence in yourself, but I hope I've explained it well enough.
Yeah, four influences. Yeah. I like the last one there when you're talking about, well, your reflective process. Do you tend to bring other trusted people in as well to help you review your performance?
Yeah, so it works on a two-way thing, because there's two elements to it. And this is not getting too deep into it, but here's the challenge. When you ask someone an opinion, so in fact, I'll relate it to this. You could go on a training course, and at the end of the say it's a training day, and at the end of the day, someone ask you to write a inval of that day, and you could put on the inval, this was the most motivational, inspirational, phenomenal day. I'm so excited. I thought everything was fantastic. The presenter was phenomenal. But then in 3 weeks' time, you've changed zero about your behaviours at all, compared to a different person, same day, or a different course. The inval is maybe very uncomfortable, didn't like it at all, not going to come back. I was challenged more than I wanted to be. And they have a positive change in 2-3 months for the rest of their lives. So which one of those is more successful? So what I'm mindful of is the feedback from others is more on, and I take both, there's some people I'm always speaking to and they're very honest with me back, but I'm aligned myself. I'm careful of, if they align to me anyway, it may be sugar-coated a bit, even if they're not trying to be. They already align to my behaviours. So sometimes I like to find the people that don't align to my philosophies, and not the ones that are dismissive, that are just negative for the sake of it, for whatever reason, but the ones that don't agree, and I'm really interested in them. And then how have I interacted to them that's had an impact in them? But the big one for me as a reference tool is, in 2-3 months' time, within the person I've interacted with, has there been a positive change in their behaviour that's aligned to the impact with others? Now, whether they liked my interaction with them or not at the time, if in reflection they're going, this was the best thing that's happened to me, then that's the feedback I need. So it's more about the ex-val than the in-val, if that makes sense. Internal validation being at the time, external validation being what impact has it has beyond our interaction.
Sounds like you're very skilled at being able to chuck your own ego to one side and just concentrate on the result that you're trying to achieve then.
Yeah, I think ego is a funny word because it's in interpretation. I mean, I'm confident I can back myself, anyone in the world, in what I do, but that's only because I'm passionate about it and I understand what I'm not good at. But it is definitely about I can't say I did a good session until that session has had a positive ripple outside my supervised time. So I'm probably more objective and critical about my own deliveries and interaction than most people, just because my whole success criteria is, does it have an impact afterwards, not at the time? So that helped you align to your accurate measures anyway, because immediately in your head, you're going, you could tell me now this was fantastic. But in my head, I'm going, well, we don't know that yet. Let's see what happens. It's a nice honesty leveler for you, because you're not really accepting it. Great, you enjoyed yourself, but I want to see if it's had an impact Afterwards.
Which gets back to what we were talking about, I think, off air before, about trying to make yourself redundant as a coach.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, what would you say are the 3 key takeaways that they can take away from this conversation?
First thing is understand what success is all the time. Second thing is make sure everyone involved agrees and aligns to what that success is. So having that pre-agreement. Be aware of yourself. Accurately record yourself. Find other ways to identify, are you who you think you are in your interaction? And thirdly, make sure that actually, if you're not consistent in supporting change within people and within yourself, change will not happen. Change is uncomfortable. Change takes time. So don't search for quick fixes. Don't search for a model or a video clip that gives you the answers you need. You need to find time to pick one or two things that are the most important things that you recognize to facilitate change and invest in them until they're embedded. Don't go for 20, 30, go for one or two and just work on them and make sure you have effective measures in place to identify, is the change effective, is the change embedded? Because change starts at self. So self-awareness at self, making sure clarity of success, and then making sure if you're going to change, set yourself up success to support the change over time. Be relentless, be patient.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like you say, change just doesn't happen just like that. It does. It takes time. It takes persistence. There's setbacks, obstacles along the way. Yeah, you can get through it if you do put those relevant processes in place. So yeah, a big thank you for your time there, Mark. I really, really appreciate it. Whereabouts can the listeners find you?
So my website, they're all quite easy actually. My website is PDS Coach. That's Papa Delta Sierra. My Twitter is PDS Coach. I think my LinkedIn's Mark Bennett PDS Coach. And I think the Insta, which I don't really use, I can't get my head around that thing at all. That's also PDS Coach. But most of my updates will be through Twitter. Facebook is PDS Coach. But the website, all the courses, all the online, all the support, the trainings on there. But also there's 3 pages of over 50 video clips, audio and podcasts that are free. So you just link into there and there's loads of discussions, demonstrations, examples from my clients of using this in action. So even if you don't pay for anything, there's certainly some free resources there. Question for you, David. What's been your takeaway from our chat?
The attention to detail that put me on the spot. The attention to detail that a high performance athlete, coach, or a parent needs to put in place in order to succeed and achieve their goals.
Yeah. And I think once people connect with that, even big national governing bodies, big sports, if they can recognize it's not about the training course, it's about the support post-training course to embed the change, that is where we need the investment. So if we could strip away the content of a training day, make it the most important, which is all about self-awareness, behaviours first before tech, but then we support the change post. There's technology, we can do that now. We'll really have a greater impact on teachers and coaches. But at the moment, my frustration is we're still ticking too many boxes and we're not supporting the change required for the progress we need.
Yeah. And again, that gets down to people's attitudes, doesn't it? In some respects, and what success is and what behaviours drive success. Yeah. But in a rush too many times to get from A to B.
Yeah, I think that's the world at the moment, isn't it? The last 10, 15 years, I think since hire purchase came in, where you don't have to save money to buy something. When was that, 40, 50 years ago now? I don't know, maybe. All of a sudden you can get it quick fix. And I think sometimes now with everything, technology being so great, we're not recognizing, as humans, we haven't really changed. We still need to be patient, relentless if we want to change. So don't look for the quick fixes. Be okay with taking time. Just make it simple. And be effective, be clear on what success is, and just focus on that. Don't make it difficult. Don't keep changing. Just be patient.
It's a nice way to finish that, is Mark. a big thank you.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity, David. That's been great.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm sure you'll agree, Mark was really top value there. He shared some absolutely fantastic tips, whether you're an athlete, a coach, or a parent. And on the subject of putting together some tips, that's what I've just gone and done over the last couple of weeks. I've pieced together a lot of information onto a checklist. It's called the Focused Athlete Checklist. I've looked back at various different blogs that I've put together and different podcast episodes and really tried to pick out the really important factors that would help you, the athlete, remain focused and committed during challenging times, during difficulties, when you lose form or lose confidence. And I've put them together on one document. So please go on, download it. You'll find it under the freebies section on our website. It's called the Focused Athlete Checklist. And please get in touch, share with me whether you enjoy this, whether you feel it's helpful at all, or if you've got any suggestions to improve, whether it's a checklist or the podcast. Have a good week. I'd like to give a big thanks to today's sponsors, Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosforth, near Newcastle upon Tyne, and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support, and excellent rehabilitation services. Thank you for listening to Demystifying Mental Toughness today. To sign up for tips and advice to help you be the best that you can be, go to www.sport-excellence.co.uk and sign up to the Mental Edge newsletter.